Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Baltimore, Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, has frequently been referred to as a Renaissance man. His mission is to live, move, and be an active, which is an acronym, authentic, compassionate, transparent, inspired, vibrant, and empowered member of society who serves to educate, elucidate, emancipate, awaken, and empower people and communities. I give you, silly man.
Gracias, señora Tracy Ranks. Feliz Navidad. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hey. Good morning, one and all. So today we will be digging deeper. So let's take that nice deep breath as we prepare. Okay, so dig deep. Whatever you have to offer, bring it. Did you hear that? Whatever you have to offer, bring it. Bring your best A game. Bring it. Here we are at this time of year where we are now approaching the summit for the year. What tools, resources, and truths are in your possession? What is inside you, pulling you to the top of the experience of life? As the journey of the year now comes to an end, what did you learn through this year? What did you glean throughout this year? And what spiritual principles and practices did you lean on? What supported you through this year? Now, what truths bolster you and will carry you into the next year? And breathe. So in the organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, we have our vision, we look to timeless wisdom, and we have our global vision and such. So here are a couple of passages from some of our key documents. And I want us to focus on some key things here. We see a world in which every person lives in alignment, emphasizing unity with God, connection with each other, individually and collectively. Timeless wisdom. We believe in the incarnation of spirit in all people, and that all people, technically, it's all things, are incarnations of this one divine power and presence. All is that. We are perfect, whole, and complete spiritual beings, and we are expressions of the divine, each and every one of us. When we attune ourselves to our spiritual magnificence, we are free to effectively serve ourselves, one another, and the world. We use spiritual tools to deepen our political, social, and spiritual consciousness. It's a mouthful right there. We join one another in actions, expanding our interconnectedness as we envision a world that works for all. And just so you know, remember, anytime you want a copy of the slides, all you have to do is email me or Tracy and you will get them. So breathe, because we're moving into this idea of what does it mean to serve, to be in service to ourselves, to be in service to one another. Keep in mind, if you've been here before, what do I usually say as part of our closing? At this point now in service, as this thing we call Sunday service comes to an end, that thing that we call being in service and being of service continues even after this Zoom room is closed, right? We are always in service to ourselves, to one another, and to the world. But if we're not consciously aware of it, then are we serving to our highest and most effective in terms of our stewardship? Are we serving our high? Have you ever been to a restaurant where your service, whomever was the server, wasn't really on their A game?
Yep.
How many times did you ask for water and you didn't get it, or you asked my plate, like I wanted this to be piping hot and it's barely warm. Napkins, clean silverware, and you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. Oh, and then you get it. And you say, yeah, we're never coming back here again. Or can I speak to a manager? So they're being of service, they're there, they're at work, but are they doing their best? And I mean, consciously doing their best. Because sometimes, yes, we understand that sometimes the server is overwhelmed. Sometimes they're new, sometimes they're in training. I'm not talking about that. That's a different consciousness, because yes, they are doing their best. And even the person who is just, they're doing their best. But in terms of being in service, are they stewarding their service at a higher level of consciousness? We're invited to dig deeper so that we are able to, in moment by moment, really usher in this concept, this consciousness of being of service and in service. But if I'm going to dig deep, wait, Tracy, if I'm going to dig deep, does it not benefit me to know what I'm digging? How many of us have said, if you're digging yourself into a hole, first thing to do is put the shovel down? How many of us have dug ourselves into holes? You know, I've got a credit card. I need a new TV. I need a new laptop. I need a new. That's a new word. That's going to be a new word. I need a new. Tracy, is that a need a new or I want a new? And then I look at the credit card bill and it's, oh, I dug myself into a hole. Oh my. It is very important for us to be mindful. What is the reason for the digging? Don't just dig for the sake of it. Dig with a purpose. So the question is, what am I digging for? Why am I digging? And what is my method of digging? Because see, Tracy and I were watching this thing called Tough as Nails. And there was a particular challenge where they had to dig a hole. And they gave them a little tuna fish can kind of thing. And we're like, here, this is what you're going to dig the hole with. I got to dig the hole with this rather than a shovel. So be mindful of, if you're going to dig, what is your method of digging? Therapy, meditation, a mindful walk. What is the method by which you are digging deep, and why? Why are we digging in the first place? Because as St. Augustine said, the higher your structure is to be, the deeper must be its foundation. If we want to be a world that works for all, and we want to be an active participant in manifesting this, then our individual foundations must be anchored and grounded deeply. In the same way that any building, any skyscraper, the foundation must be deep and strong if the structure is to raise high. There's an ancient Mongolian proverb that says, if you want to build high, you must dig deep. If you want to build high, you must dig deep. So if you have a building that is roughly 1,100 feet up, then the foundation is 90 feet deep. If you want to be an enlightened expression in the world, you want to be someone who is navigating grief, you want to be someone who is navigating racism, you want to be whoever this person is, to the degree that Yeshua said, waters, storm, be still. And you want to do that with racism or sexism or homophobia? You want to change the very condition by your power and your presence, your word made flesh? Then your foundation needs to be anchored deeply. Matthew 7:24 through 27. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his, hold on, let's do the remix. Everyone then who hears, who learns and receives these words, truth of mine, and does move your feet, will be like a wise person who built their house on the rock, firm, deep foundation, so that when the rain fell, and when the floods came, and when the winds blew and beat at the house, it did not move, it did not budge, it did not fall. Why? Because it had been built and founded on solid ground. Are we establishing our lives on solid ground so that we are moving from principle, being the very demonstration of principle in the flesh? Ernest Holmes says in Creative Mind, we are now living in a perfect universe, peopled with perfect spiritual beings. Breathe that in, because that includes you. Peopled with perfect spiritual beings, each of which, coupled with the great divinity, is complete within themselves. You right here and right now are a complete being. You are not incomplete. That means right here, right now, everything you could ever need must be present. Why? Because you are coupled with that great divinity. You are that great divinity in expression. So when we think and reflect on such beings as Siddhartha, Gautama, the Buddha, and we remember the time when Mara, their version of Satan, shows up and was like, look, dude, and the Buddha does what? Touches the earth, grounded himself, and said that the earth itself speaks truth. And in that, there is the I am awake. Now, if you're a complete spiritual being right now, then you too, right now, are awake. Are you stewarding from that space? Are you living, moving, and having your beingness as one who recognizes their wakefulness? When Yeshua is out in the desert, also tempted by the lies, tempted by the untruths, what does Yeshua say? I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. So are you. Because what he, as a demonstration of the Christ, you too are that complete demonstration of the light of God. There is only that which it is. And Yeshua himself said, when quoting Psalms, is it not written in your scriptures that ye are gods? Be ye therefore perfect, just as that which is the power that is demonstrating in, through, and as you is perfect. Be it. He didn't say work for it. He didn't say study to learn it. He said be it. Be the light of the world. Knowing that if you are this, and you are already a perfect, complete being, then the alignment of your chakras must already be present. So when we practice, we dig deep, we make sure that I am aligned in the same way that in being an effective steward of one's home, one's car, whatever, you keep gas in the car, you keep the engine tuned and serviced, you keep the house clean, keep the windows washed so you can see through them. You maintain that your chakras are opened and aligned. Why? Because I am that. I am that. I am ever becoming and expressing more and more of that which is my divine nature. And breathe. Eckhart Tolle says, awakened doing, right? It's that treat and move your feet. Awakened doing is the alignment of your outer purpose what you do with your inner purpose, awakening and staying awake. Through awakened doing, you become one with the outgoing purpose of the universe, being in alignment, as within, so without, as above, so below, as all that is incarnating in, through, and as us, being in integrity, walking the walk. So pause for a moment and let's ask ourselves a question. Do I have the ability to influence my life? Do I have the ability to influence the lives of others? What about the world? Do I have the ability to influence the world? Well, what does it mean to influence? The capacity or power of person or things to be a compelling force on or produce effects on the actions, behaviors, opinions, etc. of others. Do you have the ability to influence yourself, your own life, the lives of others, and the world? Based on this, how do you answer? And let's go a little bit deeper and say, we know that we have these we believe statements. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thoughts and acts upon it. And therefore, we believe in the healing of the sick, no matter what the sickness is, no matter what the disease is. We believe in the healing of the sick and the control of conditions through the power of this mind. Is that called influence, Tracy? We have the ability to influence and impact our own lives and the conditions of, and the lives of others. We can impact and influence, and that of the world. When we are deeply grounded, then that impact and influence is of greater evolutionary consciousness. Because even the alcoholic who abuses friends and family, even the thief, the racist, they're impacting the world. The dictator, they have influence. Hitler had influence and impact. But was it of a higher evolutionary consciousness or of a lower non-life affirming? So we always are impacting, having a strong effect on someone or something. We are always influencing. Everything we eat is impacting our bodies. Everything we drink has an influence on our health and well-being. Every relationship we are in is either life-affirming, giving us energy, or it's draining. What is your impact and what influence are you having in your own life and the lives of others? What is your sphere of influence? How are you individually affecting, interpersonally affecting? How are the ripples moving out? When things happen, how grounded are you in the idea of knowing what you can change and what you can't change? Are there certain things that are not ours to change per se? For example, if I say, well, I want Tracy to clean the house every day. So I want to impact her. I want to influence her. I'm going to pray for Tracy to be my maid.
Come on.
That is not within my purview to change her in that manner. So yes, while we can change conditions, there are some conditions that are not ours to change. Follow what I'm saying? So in terms of being the most effective stewards we can be, does it not benefit us to know, well, what is mine to change? Do I know what that is? Do I have the wisdom to know what can be changed and have the courage to change what is mine to change? And breathe and recognize that no matter what, we are highly contagious individuals. We are either contagious with hate or contagious with love, but we are contagious. We are contagious with hope and inspiration, or we are contagious with that which drains and deflates. We are either creating a world that works for all, or our contagion is creating a world of separation, lack, and scarcity. But nonetheless, because we are creation itself, made manifest, we can't help but to create. What are we creating is the question. Ernest Holmes says, "We shall know each other in God. We shall know God in each other. As our thought of God reaches to embrace the universe, our arms will be around each other." When we recognize God within ourselves and recognize God in another and reach out from God to God in service, then we will not be able to refrain from opening our arms to envelop, to love, and to embrace one another, ourselves, and the world. Why? Because that's our spiritual imperative. Our spiritual imperative is what drives us to be and do what we are here to be and do. Our spiritual imperative, just like there's a moral imperative that calls you to be of a higher standard morally and ethically. The spiritual imperative calls us to be the very demonstration of, in the same way that Buddha and Yeshua and any other spiritual teachers, leaders, masters have called us, invited us by their example, not simply to follow them, not simply to emulate them, but to supersede them, to go beyond them. Even Ernest Holmes said, "Look, I created this thing called Science of Mind and Spirit, but I'm telling you now, open at the top. You need to go past me. You need to evolve beyond anything that I've written and what I've taught. Because if you don't, then you're simply following my words and my teaching. I am telling you that this teaching is meant to be evolved." He says, "We are in the greatest age of all history. We are in the age of the unifying of all people and all things into the ever-present one." How do we do this? We recognize that right here and right now, you are chosen, not by some anthropomorphic external deity, but you are chosen because you are the divine incarnate. In the same way that right now you are breathing, you are chosen to be breathing that breath. You have chosen to be present today, to hear these words, to be enveloped in, even if you weren't present for Heather's pre-service meditation, you were enveloped in the consciousness of it. Where the light gets in, you were enveloped in the vibration of the music, whether you were present for it or not, because you are still one with it. Bob and Shannon aren't separate from God. They are God incarnate. Heather isn't separate from God. Heather is God individualizing itself. And because each of them is the one, and so are you, what they do affects you. What I do affects you, because we are all that which is one. Mungi Ngame says, "We, the global family, stand united." When we stand against terrorism, we diminish the terror. And we could put any word in there. When we stand against racism, we diminish racism. When we stand against white supremacy, we diminish white supremacy. When we stand against xenophobia, we diminish xenophobia. Unity reminds us that there are far more good people in the world than there are bad. And breathe. Because we come back to the idea we are here to be of service, to be in service, but we must understand, how do we stand in solidarity? How do we recognize this oneness? Well, one way we do it is what Nancy is encouraging people to do today. Come together and break bread, fellowship, laugh together, eat together, come together in community, because this Sunday service is only one tiny aspect of what it means to be in community. Just like a meal, you have a plate full of food, Tracy, and there's several different things on your plate full of food, Tracy. And there's green beans, and there's carrots, and there's rice, stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff, because Ray cooks a lot. It's like he's feeding an army. So you got 9 different varieties of food on the plate. Carrots are only one small part of the meal. The meal is all of it. One green bean is only one small part of the meal. So how do we come together in service, classes, book study, study group on Thursday, pre-service meditation, contacting a practitioner for prayer? There are so many ways we come together, coming together for courageous conversations where we talk about not only the issue, but we talk about the resolution, the healing of it. Coming together to say, I know right here and right now you are grieving, and I am praying with you and praying for you and holding you in the consciousness, enveloping you in love. Because there's only one. And when you hurt, I hurt. And so I come together in solidarity with you. When Tracy and I heard about this woman who was raped on the SEPTA train in Philadelphia, we felt it. No one helped her. We felt it. And so in solidarity, we're like, okay, so prayer, letters to the mayor or whomever in Philadelphia, like, look, y'all need to do something about this, because that individual is a sibling of ours, a sibling of yours. The young Native American, Indigenous American student who filmed their math teacher on some racist rant, mimicking the Indigenous Americans. How do we stand in solidarity? Letters and calls to the superintendent, letters and calls to the school board, standing in solidarity, serving. Margaret Wheatley says, the community we belong to is all of life. The turbulence cannot be controlled, but when we stop struggling and accept it as part of life, it feels different. There are going to be times when one of us is knocked down, the breath is knocked out of us. That sometimes, that turbulence, that thing, that diagnosis, that experience may not be controlled. It happens. Floods, wildfires, it happens. But how do we navigate it? How do we ensure that the building, the structure, the community is built on solid ground so that as we move through it, it feels different? Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson said, we dig deeper by establishing a firm, resolute conviction to embody and live based upon our spiritual imperative. What is that spiritual imperative? To do everything you can to live, move, and be your divinely magnificent self, the indivisible one. And in so doing, you influence, you impact, and you demonstrate a world that works for all, one life-affirming thought at a time, one life-affirming word at a time, one feeling, one deed, and one human interaction at a time. And breathe. This week, our invitation to practice is 1, Reflect upon a time that you dug yourself into a hole that you thought you would never get out of, and compare that to the concept of what it means to dig deeper in order to establish a foundation of faith and action. What's the difference? 2, what does it mean to be in service to others and with others? For what does it mean for you to be in service to others and to be in service with others? 3, where are you able to clearly identify your having had some kind of impact? Where has your influence changed something or someone? And then lastly, Tracy's favorite part.
Yay.
That she never does.
How do you know? How do you know?
Lastly,
You gonna choke again.
Lastly, have a conversation with 3 people about what it means to live according to your spiritual imperative. And we will be covering these things this Thursday in our study group, so be ready. So breathe. For this week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if you feel in alignment with it, say it with me the second time around. I am because God is, and we are because God is. Together. I am because God is. We are, and we are because God is. Breathe. Because as we said earlier, now that this thing we call Sunday service comes to a close, we recognize that the infinite power and presence that has no end, that is eternal and infinite and forever, continues to demonstrate, manifest, and create. Therefore, that which it is as us continues to demonstrate, manifest, and create. Even after this Zoom room closes, the manner in which we show up and serve ourselves, our families, our friends, our communities, the world continues. And so we go out and we demonstrate this divine contagion called love and unity and peace and purpose, for that is our spiritual imperative. Knowing this, we allow the law to do what it does, which is act upon these words, act upon our mental equivalent, and return unto us what has been sown into the soil of the law of mind and action. And knowing that those seeds are deeply, perfectly planted, then we know that this treatment, this prayer, this service, this embodiment that is you is already answered prayer. Allowing it to be, we say, and so it is. Namaste, love you.